In Sahaja Yoga, the Guru Puja has a very different significance from any other Guru Puja. When you worship your Guru, you are also worshipping the Guru within you. This is not in any other Guru-disciple system, because in you, the Guru, the Master, has been awakened. And so, when you are worshipping your Guru, then this Master within you is also worshipped, you respect it, you glorify it, you awaken it, and you manifest it. This we have to realize, that in Sahaja Yoga, if you are a Sahaja Yogi. Now the quality of Guru, first and foremost, is that he makes you meet God. Means he raises the Kundalini and establishes the relation between the all-pervading power, and as your Guru is Adi-Shakti, we make that person meet also the Adi-Shakti. So you have a double advantage, that at the same time, when you give them realization, not only that you make them feel the union with the divine power, but you can make them meet the divinity itself, the source of divine power. So your responsibility as Sahaja Yogis is very great, because in you there is the Guru. Now in our mantras we say that, Mother, I am my own Guru. But saying that, do we realize that if I am my own Guru, this I and my Guru, between the two, what have I achieved? Where am I? Can I guide myself? Have I got the light of the Spirit on my attention so well established and manifested that I can guide myself and guide others later on? First of all, in the Guru principle, it is important that you see to yourself the introspection. Can I be my own Guru? Have I become my own Guru? Now in your case, your Guru is a mother, a woman. So it has to be among women that the development of their Guru qualities have to be very well manifested. But just the way it is not. For them, they are still the mothers, or they are the wives, or they are the yoginis. But they don't realize that you are also the Gurus, because your mother is a Guru, because she is a woman, and you have to be also of that quality that people should say, look at this woman, she is such a Guru. But still, as I hear from the different leaders, that the ladies are absolutely still very much far away and are very few who can be called as real Sahaja Yogis. It's a sad thing to hear. Because if you still keep to all these mundane things of womanhood and the drawbacks of womanhood, which has come out of domination, maybe because of always they were shown to be something lower. Especially in the Christian religion, they were never regarded as something holy. They have this kind of a diffidence in them that they don't understand that dharma can be established more by women than by men. And the Guru's work is to establish the dharma in the society, in the family, in relationships. All these Gurus which are representing all these great symbols here have done nothing but have established dharma. But first of all, before establishing the dharma, we should watch ourselves. Have we got dharma within ourselves or not? First of all, the quality of a person who has dharma is that he listens to others. He obeys. And this is something has gone wrong with the Western women, I think, that they have forgotten how to listen to others, how to obey others. That's why their children also don't obey them. Obedience, if you do not have, nobody is going to obey you. First you must learn to obey. A person like Kabira, because he was born of a unknown caste, people didn't know what he was born from. And he could not go directly to any Guru. So he heard about Ramananda, great Guru of those days, who used to go to the river Ganges every morning to have his bath. So one day on his steps, Kabira kept lying, and in the darkness the Guru could not see, and he touched him with his feet. He said, "Who are you?" So he said, "I'm Kabir and I'm your disciple." And he got hold of his feet. And when he got hold of his feet, he said, "All right, come along." And then he became such a great saint in India. People know him more than they know his Guru. He became so great. The basic thing is humility. Yesterday you saw how the musician was humble. All the time he was humble. He didn't know how to express his humility every time. All the time he was humble. Because in humility only you can receive the blessings. You can receive the quality that is of your Guru. Now for a Guru, as you have seen, that in my own way, in my own image, you have to come up. First of all, your life is completely transparent. Transparency is the essence of Sahaja Yoga. Everybody should know what you are doing, where you are going, what is the way you live, what is the way you are behaving. I have seen people who are Gurus, also in the sense that we call them leaders, or we can call them sub-Gurus, or they cannot be called as priests, but I can say communication centers as they are. In them, you find that they are very fussy type of people. Always think about their body, always think about their comfort, always grudge about what's nobody looked after them, as if they suffer from persecution mania. Or they will grudge about food. I didn't eat my food for one day. It doesn't matter. For a Guru, it's better to starve for about 3-4 days nicely, so that you get over this idea of hunger. You'll be surprised, since I'm here I have not eaten anything much. I'm just drinking something, because just the Guru has no hunger, right? Because it is in your stomach, the Guru vibrations are so much that you don't feel like eating anything. So then what do you eat and how do you eat and all these things that we have given up to come to Sahaja Yoga. So even if leaders have this nonsense in their head, what do you get to eat? I mean, this is the basics, absolutely. And when I hear some people telling me, oh, what did they eat and how did they eat and all, it's like I feel they are like tourists in Sahaja Yoga. Just come in Sahaja Yoga like tourists to see places and go around and to know where you get, in what restaurant you get good food and cheaply. All this is so basically, absolutely not a manifestation of Guru Prasad. Now you have seen your Guru as she is. I do not know what I eat, what they give me, what I want. They go on giving me whatever they think I like. And I just don't know if I like that thing or not, or what is it. If they ask me, Mother, what will you have? I said, what will I have? I don't know really. What will I have? Anything. So there has to be no choices. First of all, not to waste your attention on choices. Of course, only on vibrations. I mean, supposing you go to a restaurant, find all kinds of funny vibrations there, people are getting drunk or anything, then of course you should say. But all the choices must be based on vibrations and not on material things. That you get something nice there, let's go there, and they'll travel for 50 miles to go eat something nonsensical. It should be all nonsense for all Sahaja Yogis. And when I say Sahaja Yogi, it is also Sahaja Yoginis. So the food part of it is aswada. We should not have any taste for any special food. Especially in France, to say that people may not like. But French are very, very conscientious or aware about the food part. I don't know how far they make really good food, but at least they think they eat very good food. So, the eating of good food is a kind of a addiction. It's a kind of an addiction. It's something like drug, that you must have good food. So then started this system of what they call the tea ceremony. In the tea ceremony, what he did, I mean, I have been through that, and it's really quite a test of people. With me it was all right, but the rest of them got really frightened. That in the tea ceremony, whatever rituals they do, they give you a tea, which is so bitter, we can say quinine raised to power 108, it's like that. And they give you very nicely, handle you with such ritual that you have to take it. So first they say you see the cup without thinking. So he tried to make thoughtless awareness through the cup. I don't know how much one can achieve with that. But that tea that you take once, your tongue is good for anything. And to compensate it, they give you something sweet, which is again sweetness raised to power 108. So sweet that it becomes bitter. So sweet. So this is just to conquer the tongue. Zen must have thought that better give them this tea ceremony, where there is no tea, there is nothing but just you really give such shocks to your tongue, so that after that you can eat whatever you get. And that's why you must know that Japanese can eat anything. They have solved their food problem because they can eat anything. They can just fish out some crabs, or could be some prawns, just peel them out like peanuts and eat them like that. I think Zen has solved this problem for them because they have food shortage. And this is how they can eat everything. They can eat the bark of the tree, they can eat the snake, they can eat the lizards, they can eat the frogs, everything they can eat. So all their eating problems are solved in that country by Zen, I think, because you have no taste. But in this, I think the worst are in the whole world are Indians. They are the fussiest people for food. because their women have spoiled them. They know very good cooking and they know how to handle their husbands by cooking very well. And the way they cook food for them, you see, the men have to go back to Indian food. Even if they travel the whole world, they'll need Indian food. They can't get over their Turks. It is such a big conditioning in India of food that I just don't know how will they get out absolutely the basics which are important. Gandhiji tried that very much in the ashram. He used to give horrid food, boiled food with the oil of mustard on top, and nobody could eat that raw. And he used to make everybody eat that. Not only that, he would make them clean the bathrooms, WCs, everything, so that you get rid of your nose also, that you need everything. Because so many people, you will, while eating also in India, will put something to their nose, so they smell everything. So they are over-sensitive to their tongue and to their nose, but not to their eyes. To eyes they are not. For eyes, I would say the most sensitive people are Japanese and Chinese. And also the Western people are very much sensitive because they don't like to see anything dirty, filthy or ugly. Indians won't mind any dirt, filth, anything, just like dogs and horses or buffaloes. They can walk through any dirt, filth, anything. Nothing matters to them. Anything ugly, ugly building or an ugly dress or anything is all right for them. It doesn't matter. To their eyes, it doesn't matter at all. Only thing, kitchen should be clean, and they are all the time in the kitchen. So we don't have to learn all these bad things from Indians. There are some good things they have, but there are certain things, theirs are very bad conditioning. And the next to that are, I think, the French. But if you eat English food, you can become quite good because there's no taste in English food.